All right, we're calling the meeting to order. It's 5 o'clock. Thank you. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Items to the agenda.
Yeah, I do have one. And this has to do with the, the first decision item under section 7, unfinished business, the CEO conflict of interest statement. I want to exclude that specific one for tonight because it did not go through committee. And we didn't discuss it during the governance committee, so I'm kind of tabling that. I want to table that until the March governance committee, and then we can bring that up during the March board meeting.
So I'm going to make a motion that we postpone item 7B1 until the March board meeting.
I'll second that. Yeah.
I think Gary's the one who we try to have as many mics as possible.
I need discussion.
Just a curiosity, looking at it as board of governance, it was just mainly a word change separating CEO from the others, and I'm just curious if you had a concern that I didn't understand or know.
So I think the bylaws have required that all of these conflict of interest discussions go through the committee, and not the chair of the committee makes a decision or makes the changes without the rest of the committee knowing. And so we actually need to discuss that because there might be some additional changes that are needed based on what we're trying to do for that CEO conflict of interest statement.
So do you feel that the next board meeting that we had discussed about CEO evaluation compensation, you want to have that discussion and see if it follows through with your governance, or are you going to do it before? Because looking at the conflict of interest, it's pretty straightforward, and I want to understand the discussion.
Okay, so I'm trying to be productive about this. It's not a decision, or it's not something that the chair of the committee can make on their own. It needs to be brought towards the committee. It was even stated on the meeting last January, where we needed to discuss that during the committee and not just a single person section.
It was suggested that we could, but my understanding is that the chair can decide to bring it forward.
It was not suggested. It specifically says in consent items, and I can pull that up. Give me a minute, I'll pull that up.
So I remember having a discussion and saying that we would try to send that to the committee. And that's all that I was saying.
Yeah, I think the minutes reflected that it could be discussed. It didn't say it had to be. And then as the chair that I could see that it's minor.
I disagree.
Let's
When you do.
consider going ahead and then just setting it through committee again then. I think the only changes were made were in the wording to CEO as opposed to the board members being listed. However, let's just go ahead and send it back.
I just want to understand that.
Yeah, I think the staff had gone through it and just made the change too, because I think that was a request by CEO. But you're okay.
Well, you can do that, but again, I just want to make sure that.
I want to point out that in the consent items, on the conflict of interest statement, it says approval of the CEO, COI, and leadership team COI can be discussed further by the governance committee.
Can be.
That doesn't mean that you
It
make.
shall be.
It doesn't mean that you make those changes without the committee involvement. That would just be like.
All right, let's go ahead and call for a vote. So all in favor of doing it, or just removing the item and sending it back to committee, say aye. Aye. All against, nay? Okay, ayes have it, unanimously. Okay. If there are no other items for, too late for the agenda, then we'll move to public comments. So Jeremiah, do we have any public comment?
We do, just to make it easier, we'll start with the one that we have online currently, and then we'll get to the, looks like we have about 8 in-person signups. So, Jacob Ward, who is online, you should now be able to unmute yourself.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sweet. Hello, I'm Jacob Ward. I'm representing our workers union here at the Library District, Pikes Peak Library Workers United. First off, to anybody concerned about the direction of local public services in general and politics, if you're running for a local city council or county commission office or trying to get on the library board even, our local CWA 7799 and our union can provide you with a questionnaire and then offer an endorsement if your values align with ours and our pro-labor union. We need political change to provide workers and citizens more rights and services and to ensure the Board of Trustees is helmed by people who respect public services and understand the general purpose of libraries. And then to my coworkers, this includes supervisors and managers. There have been active attempts by PPLD's Human Resources Department to discourage you from joining your union here or meeting up with us outside of work to discuss union. You have been encouraged to correct misconceptions about our union, but also told not to attend any meetings to understand what our union even is and unlearn your own misconceptions. So just so you know, the reality is you can join your union. Our bylaws explicitly state that you may join with nearly full union privileges, the only exception being you can't hold a leadership role within our union to avoid that conflict of interest. In plain terms, you're lower on the rung than assistant directors and directors. You don't make sweeping policy decisions. You can't even technically hire or fire employees without a superior signing off on those decisions. And so under PROPWA, Colorado labor law, you may join your union. Our union has labor law experts who either seem to know more than the HR department or you are knowingly being told false information. So I don't know if this is ignorance or a scare tactic, but either way, it is a union busting tactic. So I've talked to some supervisors and managers who have expressed interest, and we can give you the ins and outs of labor law and what our union is. In a one-on-one meeting, we already have members in these positions. And if you're scared of retaliation, your membership status is only as public as you want it to be. You know, you may have undercover union coworkers already. So if you want to talk about it, reach out. Our contact is on our website, pplwu.org, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram to contact us. So again, to the local folks there, if you think of running for any positions, reach out to us. We can talk. And for any of my coworkers who would like to join or are just curious, also reach out and talk. Thank you for your time.
All right, and for the in-person folks, just to save us time, I'll announce 3 of you at a time. And please just approach this microphone here when it's your turn to speak. The first 3 are Aaron Powers, Camille Binkley, and Gloria Carpenter.
Hi, my name is Erin Powers. I'm a Northwest community resident. First of all, of course, it's very upsetting that you degraded the quality of life in that area by closing the library that we all really needed. But the long-awaited bookmobile hours have been released. I just wanted to mention that for working parents, that doesn't work at all. Closes at 4 o'clock. Also, most of the local elementary schools get out at 3:50, so no elementary schools can make it. So if those hours could be amended so they're a little more accessible, that would be great. Other than that, if there's any way that the nomination process for the new board member appointment could be neutral at all, that would be great. Just not be forwarding any personal agendas, that would be a great request. Thank you.
Are you coming out?
Here, I can put this down for you. If you want to jump up and down, please.
That's in library tours, and I can't even go to the bookmobile because I'm still in school.
My name is Gloria Carpenter, and thank you for letting me speak. Thank you to Pam and the bookmobile department for at least getting the Rock Rimmon area of bookmobile on the bookmobile schedule. Also, I want to thank Julie for her reply to my recent email. Although she really didn't answer my question about a book drop in Rock Rimmon area, I just need to know some kind of information like, have you evaluated X number of locations, figured out costs, contacted potential landowners, etc. I'm not getting the answer to my question about the leases for Shannon Mountain and Ruth Holly libraries and when those leases are up. And I don't see how the lawsuit has any bearing on that information. Just give me a name of some person that's in charge of the leases and I can contact that person. The other thing is I attended the committee meetings for the BOT on February 4th, and there was discussion about possible goals for the board for 2025, including improving communication, accessibility, and trust. To improve communication, you can send out an email when you have a special meeting if it is added to the website after the beginning of the month, like the February 12th meeting. You can also answer our emails. To improve accessibility to the administration team, you can post emails and extensions. To improve our trust in y'all, you could acknowledge our attendance at meetings. You could ask for help. We have a vast array of knowledge, skills, and experiences. Thanks again for letting me speak my piece.
Our next three are Lisa Bigelow, Veronica Baker, and Eric Lundberg.
Good evening, Lisa Bigelow, a Northwest resident for over 2 decades. First, I'd like to thank Scott Taylor and Debbie English for their support and rational and common sense approach to problem solving for the Rock Rimmon Library. Despite their best efforts and pleas to the rest of you, they understand the bigger picture. I'm truly honored to know they are fighting to keep library branches open for all. The rest of the BOT couldn't answer questions and Dora kept saying it's a budget issue. Really, that game has been exposed, and it's not, but then maybe the majority of you are able to read your audited financial statements. I'm not really sure. I nicknamed you board of trustee members that closed the Rock Rimmon Library the famous five, and I hope you carry that nickname with pride. It's not to be disrespectful, but a badge of honor for the 5 of you that voted to close the Rock Rimmon Library. It is your legacy, and we will be here to remind you of that throughout 2025. As the saying goes, you, the famous 5, have won the battle, but you will lose the war. To Angela, and actually to all of you that claim Rock Rimmon Library should be a community center funded by the city. Really? How do you explain your Penrose homeless shelter and protective, expensive fence? Is that within the purview of PPLD? Based on Angela's comments, definitely not. How do you explain movie nights at Fountain? When did we become a movie theater? How do you explain cooking classes and probably several other programs that technically would fall into a definition of a community center program and not within the purview of PPLD? That type of illogic is absolutely unbelievable from a previous city council member who should know the mission and strategic plan goals of PPLD. The famous 5 and the lies about your financial position and the non-transparency is beyond a breach of your fiduciary responsibility. Dora's ridiculous statement that not renewing the lease didn't close the branch. What? Can I ask you, Dora? Not renewing the lease? Have you in effect, at this time, closed the library? Your nonsensical statement is an embarrassment to you and our community. The only saving grace is that you are term limited and hopefully being replaced by someone that will understand that not renewing Rock Rimmon lease did in fact close the library. Some of you stated it's a community hub, and how can you say that when it's the second busiest branch as a circulation materials in the district? There are no words for you misinforming the public about this closure. Your public process was flawed, and you will be remembered for the board of trustees that closed libraries. If it weren't so sad, it's almost hilarious. You have single-handedly dismantled the public trust that in non-elected officials. This nonsense that Pikes district libraries are not actively functioning as community centers offering a variety of programs and spaces for community engagement beyond just book access can be refuted, and your disingenuous attempt to use this as an excuse to close the Rockland Library should disqualify you from being a board trustee. I'm very interested in your agenda item on the potential purchase of Ruth Holly Library. Be careful what you do and how you do it, because we will not go away and we will continue to fight for our record of library. Thank you and have a good evening.
We are 2 months out from losing our library, yet we are no closer to understanding what purpose that decision served. If you are following the facilities master plan, should we be expecting more cost analysis and user analysis as the presenters and plans suggested? You see, when you don't have a clear plan, your decisions look haphazard at best, and at worst, it appears as though there is some other agenda you're serving, one the public is not privy to. What even could that be? With the potential purchase of the UPass library for 633 registered card users, should we now be expecting that you will want to buy all these library locations if possible? And if it's not possible, should we expect that you'll decide not to renew those libraries, thus forcing them to close? In this tunnel vision pursuit of owning all of our buildings, I can't help but think that we're making choices which put our patrons' access, the most important consideration, at a distinct disadvantage. We're not even sure what option or information from the facilities master plan you are using to inform your decisions. Many citizens, agencies, and even city council members have asked, how are you using this plan to guide your priorities? This information should not be classified. When will you include us, the community, in these important decisions? How will you show us that our involvement and engagement matters? And when you make decisions like closing long-standing, well-loved, and busy libraries without even considering asking voters for a tax increase, you shortchange the generosity of communities. Instead, you wrongly create division in our county, an idea where services should be taken away from one area so that they can go to another part of town, because having both is an impossibility. I imagine that's not your intention. Regardless, that is the effect. How can we work together so that we can grow our libraries for the many deserving people in our city? Closing our libraries is certainly not the solution, as you can plainly see. I challenge you to tell us what problems the library district is facing and allow us to be a part of helping to find the solution. I promise that in doing so, you will find us willing and eager partners. Please stop making decisions to us, for us, about our beloved and well-used public services. Instead, start making decisions with us. And we can all see how much better that can serve our communities for years to come.
Member. So reviewing the board packet this morning renewed my outrage at the closing of our library. Having discussions about possibly purchasing the UPass and Ruth Holly branches is a slap in the face to the Rockland community. You always fell back on the facilities master plan to justify your hasty decisions. But that plan has nothing to say about purchasing UPass or Ruth Holly. How could you consider purchasing UPass, a 90-year-old building with a very favorable lease rate, and which serves 7% of the registrations and checkouts that Rockland had, when you wouldn't even extend the Rockland lease for one more year at a fraction of that cost? And now, instead of closing Ruth Holly, as your plan suggested, you're considering purchasing it instead? I'll remind you that the owner of the Rockland building offered to sell the space to you. You're just now talking about how to prioritize the recommendations from the facilities master plan. So I have to ask, Why did you rush into closing Rockrimmon before having those discussions? Your discussions about prioritizing capital spending better include when and where to reopen the Rockrimmon branch. As you'll remember, you said last year that not renewing the lease didn't mean that the Rockrimmon branch would be permanently closed and that it could eventually reopen. So that needs to be part of the considerations. Because while I appreciate the new mobile library style, and I hope many people in our community can benefit from it, personally, it doesn't do anything for me. It's only available on a weekday during working hours, so I'll be at work and unable to use it. So you can't consider a mobile stop as a permanent replacement for our library. We still want our library back. We're closely watching everything you do and say, and you're going to continue hearing from us until you rectify your mistakes. The recent discussions and actions leave us with no faith in your ability to effectively lead our library system, and we demand better stewardship of our tax dollars. Thank you.
And the final 3 signups for public comment are Carla Powers, Craig Johnson, and Gary Ayer.
Use my computer for this before, so we find having computer issues. Okay, I'm Carla Powers. You know me well by now. And I do appreciate, especially the people who are really trying to listen. It's clear when I watch the committee meetings who is actually being analytical, who knows the history, and who's really trying to put the library, the community first. And I really appreciate that. I do appreciate that, Dora, you wanted to get the bookmobile out there. There's gonna be a bookmobile out there in 2 days. And that's really wonderful. 2 out of 3 of my granddaughters get to go see it. The other one, she goes to school till 3:50, so it's not possible. So I would appreciate if you guys would look at the hours and see if you could possibly adjust them so more people could use it. So I think you've heard this over and over today. We just don't understand your plan. We don't know what's going on. You're a public entity and you're supposed to be transparent. We're supposed to know what your plan is, but we don't know what it is. We don't know what your plan is. First, you pay for a master facilities plan, but not a cost analysis. You have part of it there, but not the whole thing. Okay, next, you close the Rockrimmon Library very quickly. You know, the lease was going to run out at the end of December, so you know, kind of say, okay, but you close it very quickly without telling us. And you refer to the master facilities plan, like this is the reason why. Dora, you said that so many times. And you know, I can understand you referring to it as like, this is what we paid for, we listened to these people, and this is the information we got from it. The problem is it wasn't all the information you need to be looking at, and it was done so quickly that the whole population of people who use it, they didn't come along with you because we don't understand what's going on. Oh my gosh, I'm so far off on this.
You can
Okay.
have my extra time.
You can have your extra time? Is that, I don't know if that's even possible, but if it is, okay. So then you're in the process of considering purchasing Youth Pass Library, and you're in the process of looking now tonight at Ruth Holly Library, which is a surprise. Because the master facilities plan is saying like, don't get it or possibly move it into a larger place. What is your strategic plan? Is it the same as your facilities plan? If it's a different plan, it doesn't seem to be public or written down if it's a strategic plan. And that looks like a fiscally irresponsible thing to do. It needs to be written down, it needs to be public. The problem is, as you can hear, if you don't tell us what's going on, all we can do is use our imagination and go like, okay, I've got a logical brain here. What is the reason for this whole thing? What's going on? And so we try to figure out the answer, and sometimes we guess right and sometimes we guess horribly. Just tell us what's going on, and then we can work with you on this. You might be able to solve all our problems, you might understand the whole thing perfectly. So I'm just saying, please let us know what's going on. We're thrilled with thinking that you want to have a healthy library in the long run. But please tell us how we fit into the whole thing. Right now, we're confused, we're hurt, we feel like we had salt rubbed in our eyes with looking at buying to other places because we just don't understand. We don't understand what's going on. So please fill us in. Thank you.
Greg Johnson. I'm a 34-year resident and investor in the Pikes Peak Library District, and I was a Rock Rimmon Library patron. I'm here with two simple requests. The first is a request that do no more harm. Please suspend all actions related to changes to the facility footprint of the Pikes Peak Library District today. This ensures no other community has to go through what we have gone through having our facility gutted without an adequate analysis or any explanation that made sense to the. This ensures that not only this board, but future board actions are disciplined and fact-based. The second is a request to honor the facility's master plan, and I'm going to quote directly from that master plan. The consultant team first recommends that PPLD establish a set of guiding principles, perhaps similar to those inspired by the Columbus Metropolitan Library. These principles should be tailored to the unique needs of the Pikes Peak Library District's libraries and emphasize key areas such as sustainability, innovation, flexibility, support for diverse literacy development, customer experience, and accessibility. In addition, the plan contains the following priorities. First, maintaining the overall size of the PPLD system, avoiding drastic growth or reduction. Second, ensuring that current and future library locations align with anticipated population trends. Third, strategically improving facilities with an emphasis on enhancing programming, safety, and staff efficiency. Please honor our investment in this facilities management plan by implementing, doing the work. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gary Hale. I haven't been studying this issue as long as some of these people have, so I don't have the passion they do. But I do have a few observations I'd like to share with you. I went to the trouble of looking up your master plan on the website, and I came to the conclusion, as you did, close Rock Rimmon Library at the end of lease. It's right there, print it out. And what else could you do? The lease was over, you had to close it. Unless you read the rest of the line. Close the Rock Rimmon Library at the end of the lease or after a short extension. Hey, what a trip, a short extension, like people were talking about doing, like the facility, owner of the building wanted to do. But for some reason, that part of the master plan wasn't quite as important as the rest of the master plan. Another part of it that I found interesting, there's a line here that says plot unstaffed controlled access to Callahan, Palmer Lake, or UPass libraries. I haven't heard unstaffed controlled access talked about in any of these meetings, but gosh, that sounds kind of ominous to me. But after you're going to pilot this unplanned controlled access at Callahan, Palmer Lake, or UPass, along comes the plan to buy the UPass facility for $440,000 after you're about ready to reduce hours of operation after setting up the automated stuff. That doesn't make sense. So I went and Googled the population around the UPass location. It's about 1,200 people. The population around Rock Rimmon is 12,000 people. So you close down a library serving 12,000 people so you could buy a big chunk of space to serve 1/10 as many people. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's got to be something more that I'm not seeing. One of the other things that strikes me as I come into this beautiful facility we have here, a great library. I really love this place. I come to a lot of meetings here and do a lot of research here. I also have used all of the other libraries in the city in my 35 years of living. And most of them, you walk through the door and there's bookcases, and there's kids, and there's men, and there's women, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. And wherever you look in the world, there's stuff happening. You walk into this library,
and you feel more like a BB in a boxcar. It's a palace. It's a giant palace with all kinds of open space. It occurs to me that if you could sell this place, you could probably afford to buy 10 or 15 or maybe 20 rock ribbon libraries. That might fit into the next master plan. Thank you very much.
That's the end of public comment.
Okay, one of our liaisons, Pikes member Hinton wanted requested to move her liaison comments after public comments, so without objection.
Well, I'm sorry, somebody was, you
Let's-
wanted Nancy to make a comment?
Is, will you let her go ahead and then if we have another public comment, finish up?
You should be able to unmute Nancy.
Thank you. And thank you, board. I very much appreciate your being willing to take me out of order. I have to be somewhere and I really wanted to be able to share some things with you all this evening. So it shouldn't take too long. Thank you. I wanted to give you kind of an update as to where we're at with the candidate selection and interview and appointment process for the opening on the board now and actually going forward. I sent you all, I hope Teo, and I'm pretty sure she forwarded to you some emails with a lot of information as well. So hopefully you've had a chance to read that. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them as well. But basically, kind of an overview again, we have received, actually, this started back in September. You all originally received 51 applicants for board positions. That includes candidates from the September and then the November postings. And there were actually a total of 9 recommendations from the governance committee. So the liaisons, the 2 liaisons from City Council and the county commissioners have had those for quite some time. In terms of the interview and appointment process, I just want to talk about where attorneys and where we're at with that process. So with the guidance from the county and the city attorneys, interviews themselves must be done either publicly with 4 liaisons, because I will say that we've discovered that for decades, we've actually not been following the rules, the Sunshine Law. And so this whole experience we've had in the last fall has kind of revealed that. And so we are in the process of correcting that. So their determination is that interviews, if they're done with all 4 liaisons, must be done in public, or interviews can be done privately with 2 liaisons from the county, 2 liaisons from the city, interviewing folks, and then an actual, I'll get to appointment in a minute. But the defined process from the attorneys for how the candidates are selected is not been determined. So we don't have a defined process for how the liaisons select from the number of applicants that come. That's up to us to figure out. I will say that I have offered a rubric for us to use, and I am using that rubric in my own selection process for interviews. Also, per guidance from the county attorney, the final trustee appointments must be made by the 4-person, and they're calling it now, the proposed title is Joint Appointment Committee, or the JAC. And that would be in accordance with the Colorado Revised Statutes, 2490-108. The JAC, that Joint Appointment Committee, consists of 2 city council liaisons and 2 county commissioner liaisons. Appointments require 2/3 approval from both city council and county commissioners. That meeting, that joint appointment committee meeting, must be publicly noticed, allowing community members to attend and observe our deliberations for selection of those interview process that happened in the 2-on-2. I will say, just for myself, it's tough to know what to do in terms of how to do those interviews publicly or not. But at this point in time, the majority of the liaisons were not comfortable with doing those interviews publicly. But of course, we will have to do the deliberations publicly. We don't have a date or a time yet for those deliberation conversations yet, because we haven't even really finished our interview process. So let me get to the interview process. In terms of city council, I can report that last Friday on Valentine's Day, myself and Pro Tem Crow Iverson, the other liaison, we interviewed 4 applicants. We are actually in the process of looking to add to those interviews. So we have completed 4 interviews, and we're on March 3rd going to be doing another round of interviews. To ensure consistency, again, we requested access to previous interview questions, and we narrowed them down to 6 key questions. As I had mentioned before, I proposed a rubric that is aligned with PPLD's position description and best practices from the American Library Association to provide a clear evaluation framework. At this point, to my knowledge, I'm the only one using that rubric. Interviews are being conducted in this 2 at a time format in compliance with the open meetings laws. As I said, myself and Lynette had those interviews on the 14th from 3 to 5, and we're going to be doing another round on March 5th. At this time, I have received no update or response to numerous inquiries to the county commissioners on their selected candidates or interview timeline. What the potential challenge here with this situation is that, and we're sharing with them, City Council is sharing with them who we're interviewing. So hopefully we all interview the same people. And then can come together and talk about who we think should be appointed. And once that process is complete, then it goes again to the 2 bodies for approval. So unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, I don't see this happening by the end of February, and potentially at this point, even necessarily by the end of March. So we are working to finalize the logistics for that JAC meeting, the time, date, and venue. And that's what I have to report. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you might have. And I also am so sorry to miss your conversation on Ruth Holly. I'm very interested in that. And I just have a personal request if someone from the board or Teona, somebody would reach out to me and just tell me how that conversation went. I would be most appreciative of that. And so with that, that's that finishes my update. And if you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them. And I'm really sorry, Dora. I don't know what this means exactly for you.
I'm here. Servant leadership is what it's called.
Jeremiah, did you say there were further public comment?
There was no further public.
There was no.
I apologize.
Okay.
I was trying to get
Make sure
clarification on if you wanted me to unmute Nancy.
Okay.
Later,
I just wanted to make sure I didn't run past anyone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just jump in out of order? I apologize.
No, you're fine. Problem. I was just making sure I didn't jump out. Okay. Great. Thank you, Councilmember Hincham, for that update. And I'm sure make sure that you're updated on the minutes from this meeting and session. All right. And we will now take a 15-minute break for board photos. Then we'll come back.
Makes her smile.
Here you go. I need this.
The photos are gonna be taken in the staff training room,
Okay.
if y'all wanna.
All right. So as we move into reports, we'll start with the internal affairs committee report.
It's Aaron.
Oh, there we go. I couldn't unmute before. Sorry about that. Okay, well, I should have quickly pulled up what I needed to talk about, but we did meet and we did review 2 different policies that we're going to see tonight. I had everything pulled up, everyone, but I had to switch over to my phone versus my computer because of the sound. So I don't have it directly in front of me. to tell you exactly what the two policies are, but you all are going to see them this evening and vote on them. So that's what we did in internal affairs.
Public affairs. Are we back? We're on.
You gotta talk into it right now.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, like that. Thank you.
So we met, and as people have mentioned in their public comments, we are looking at ways that we can increase access to information and build trust with the community this year. And part of what we talked about was having discussions at the board meeting about various topics and where we're going and why we're making decisions that we make, so that people feel more in tune with that. I think we also talked about working with the communications department to help spread the word about things that affect the library and things that affect the community. We talked a lot about the fact that, especially with the new website, there's a lot of information available online, but it's not, we realize that not everybody lives their life looking at websites just for fun to see what the library is doing. And so we need to be proactive in pushing information out for people. And so we're going to be looking at ways to do that and to involve the community in decision making this year. I don't have specific chapters going.
Okay. Right, thank you. And governance committee.
The governance committee met, and being new to the committee, I am happy to have the ability to have a quick little review on that day. And Scott, who has great historical knowledge, and he's greatly willing to share that knowledge. We discussed really the three big core. There's other issues we do, but the three big are definitely bylaw review is up and due, CEO eval, and computation philosophy, and of course the bot process. But right now, the most pressing is the CFO evaluation. The past the past meetings have collected a lot of data, and so that will be brought into the next meeting to go over. And then, we're also gonna be looking at deeper dive into the bylaw reviews, not just word changes, but sort of why, and does it fulfill the goal that we are meaning. And then, as we just heard from our liaison, Nancy Henjum, the city and the county have not come up with an exact process or timeline. A lot of our bylaws do deal with our role in that. And, it's going to be a little bit of, we have to wait to see what they produce and then we move to it. But I sort of want to be a bit more prepared, so that the process can continue to be a smooth and efficient process. It's not pretty much what we did.
Thank you. And then we already heard from Councilmember Hincham, but are there any other liaisons present who?
I do not see any on.
Okay. Then with no further liaisons, we'll move to trustee comments pertaining to ways we've engaged with the district or the public on behalf of the district.
So I went to the foundation board meeting in February or January. So I just wanted to report that they have several new board members who are very excited to be working with the foundation. And the foundation is, I think, quickly now coming up to speed on getting their financial reports done and being able to make donations or move funds over to the PPLD, which will be great. And everyone's going to be on the committee, and the committee decisions are being made. It's a good process, and people are, I think, excited.
So I had the opportunity, as most of you did, to go to the opening at Manitou, and it is a phenomenal facility. I actually was in Manitou end of last week, and so I stopped in to see how things were going. And they said that it's going really well. I was like, now that you're actually like in the space, like how is it, breaking in? And they said just great, that they've gotten lots of really positive feedback from the community. I've heard that from other community members too. Just how well that new space fits them and their city. And so I'm really excited that it's now finally open and available.
All right, I also attended both of those events, so went to the foundation board meeting, was excited to see them just really working to get their financials figured out and how they can support the district better in the future. Also went to the Manitou opening, was so excited to see just them back in that building, and especially excited to see just the improved ADA access. Saw quite a few families there with with family members with mobility issues who were able to access it the way they had. So it's really excited to see that. And then it's already in minutes, but just thank you for those of you who were able to make the board work session last week, just to go over and talk through how do we prioritize, how do we dig deeper into the facilities master plan, and some of those things that we're really working hard to make sure that we're looking at that data and thinking through how we make decisions. And that informed a little bit of tonight's agenda as well. So thank you all for making that. For those of you who couldn't, I'm grateful that you tried to be engaged as best you can. Hope you were able to look at the minutes and get caught up to speed.
I just wanted to state that I went to the naturalization ceremony, and for those of you that have never been, please come to the next one. It is just so fabulous to see the new citizens that are becoming Americans. It's just so exciting. I believe there were 31 countries represented. 21 countries, yeah.
Plus, yeah.
And so it was really awesome. I mean, it's really an awesome ceremony. So I invite everybody that's here or our board to attend if they haven't.
I just wanted to state I also was able to attend that, and it was something I had never seen before, and I can tell you it was the highlight of my day, if not my week.
Yeah.
It is something to see. It is just the pride and just the faces, just watching the faces. It just makes your heart sing. So if you can attend, how many do we have now a year?
Typically two a year, maybe three, depending on how many applicants they have.
And it's just something that, before those people had to go to Denver and to travel. And it was, something that shows the pride in the county and in the city here. So very, very happy to be part of that.
And kudos to the departments that put this on.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Any further trustee comments? All right, then we'll move to the Friends of the Pikes Peak Library District report. Ms. Rita Jordan.
Is Rita online? Yes.
This is Rita Jordan with the Friends Report. I have nothing to add besides what we have in the report, except to say that one, we are just really working hard to bring in more books for our book sale, which will be March 6th through 9th. And we added an extra day, so there will be 2 days when Friends members can come in and get reduced prices on any books that they purchase. And that will be Thursday evening and Friday afternoon. We also already have had one weekend on Saturday when we have drive-up donation drop-off, and there are people there to take boxes out of folks' cars so they don't have to drag the boxes in to East Library, and that will be continuing for the next 2 weekends. So we are looking for more donations because we always want to make sure we have enough books for our patrons and our members to purchase. So that's it. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing all of you at the book sale. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Financial report, Randy Green.
Good evening, board members. So as this is January, obviously, 1 month of activity for the library is not going to be stunning. The thing you'll see every January is the revenue from our property taxes runs about 2%. It's actually a little less than 2%. And so, of course, that isn't going to offset the spending that we would have for 1/12 of the year. And so the negatives that are showing on the first page for PPLD as a whole, those will pretty much evaporate next month because that's one of our largest tax deposits because of the way the timing on collection of the taxes in the county. General fund, of course, looks very similar to the other one, and I've said this before, that the only thing this doesn't include is the self-insurance fund and the capital funds. Interest, you'll notice that's obviously it's buried on this one in other operating, but our interest was a little less than $100,000 in the first month, so that was one of our more favorable variances on the revenue. Looking at the general fund expenditure detail, this includes free payrolls for January. Our last payroll landed on the 31st. So there's generally 2 months out of the year. The next one will be August that we have free payrolls. So that jumps the number just a little bit on the budget side and the actual. So, and as you can see on here, most locations are running favorable. Some of the departments, for instance, finance and intergovernmental or interdepartmental, we have expenses paid in January for things like insurance and our ERP system. It's a once a year annual payment in January, so that'll jump that just a little bit out of the norm for the rest of the year. The capital improvement plan, we are I should have the capital roll forward for last year for this year that I do pretty much February, March of every year. So that will be included. It's not on here, obviously, because we don't have the total numbers yet. This does not include any kind of encumbrances. I've also stated that before. So the variance on that for the actual to the budget should won't reflect that as far as what's being spent and what's being ordered. And the self-insurance fund pretty much looks the way I hoped it would. We actually, our claims were down a little bit from what I had anticipated for the first month of the year. So we're running almost 200,000 favorable on that. That's not the only thing it includes, but it's the main expense on that personnel expense line. So obviously, as the year goes by, I'll keep an eye on that and make adjustments as needed. And the last page is just a reconciliation I put together to show when we do resolutions. And of course, at this point, we only have the December 10th resolution for approving the 25 budget. Any questions?
I really appreciate the big numbers on that.
Didn't need a magnifying glass for you.
Yeah, I think you should probably gonna thank Laura for that.
Inserted what you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, public services report. All right, any questions about public services or before I point out a few things? All right, couple of things I just wanted to bring your attention to. If you call adult education and collection management work together
We have a vendor who is discontinuing one of our databases, Demographics Now, and so they work to determine a good replacement. And so as we phase out, or as the vendor phases out that database, we'll be bringing in a new one called Simply Analytics. So that's already noted on the website that that'll be going away. Collection management hosted some of the students from Pueblo Community College in their library technicians associate degree program to help with some of their projects for graduation. Programming participated in the school choice fair in Monument with over 400 attendees. And then regional history did an outstanding job with their When East Was East. So if you haven't had a chance to at least stop by and see the new mural, that's part of the wall. And then that presentation is also on their website for you to also review. And I have to give John Gerald a shout out because he made my librarian heart very proud, because not only did he do this historical presentation, but he also demonstrated the tool that the library has that compiled all that digital photographs and how to use that afterwards. So if anybody is interested, that is also on there as well.
Okay. Any questions about the support services, communications, human resources, and information technology, facilities, security, and strategic and innovation reports? I don't recall if this was actually under security or public services, but I did notice that there was there was a note on Narcan trainings, and a member of the community who had trained for one of our trainings had been able to deploy Narcan to save a life as a result of having been trained by PPLD staff. So shout out to the staff who runs the trainings to safety and security. We appreciate you very much. Right, Chief Librarian and CEO report, Anna Shanitz.
Good evening, everyone. As you've noticed that we include a quarterly report for our strategic plan. So I want to take this opportunity and thank so many individuals that are in this room or not, that made sure that those tactics that were set in front of us that we would be able to accomplish. I also especially want to point out our security. Now they have a 5-year plan when it comes to our safety and security improvements. That's a huge accomplishment that the security team accomplished, and it was one of the tactics also, as you see in the quarterly report. And I guess I'll just follow Tammy and say, do you have any questions from the quarterly report? Because I can talk for a long time, go over every tactic and tell you how it happened, but I don't believe, it will be efficient. So, and also I want to take this time and thank Jeremiah, Walter, and Cindy for putting together PPLD Contact as summary. As I mentioned a while back, that's our plan to keep providing this information. And if you see from that, what is the percentage and what kind of questions or comments we receive from the community. And I want to make sure that every comment or question that we receive actually is answered appropriately internally. That's what Jeremiah and Cindy do when they get questions about library cards. That question goes to an appropriate department. So then our community members don't have to wait for weeks to get an answer. So any questions about that? And of course, everybody already talked about Manitou Springs Library opening. That was such an accomplishment, but I want to take this time and thank everyone who've been involved in that. And of course, all of you, PPLD Board of Trustees. But when it was about Justin Michael, what about 2 weeks ago when we were on phone calls and Heather trying to figure out to make sure that we were in time. And those two individuals with their teams, they made sure that we would open on time. There were some team members who literally spent nights there. working, I don't know how many hours. And again, IT, security, facilities, and public services. I don't know how they did it. I know that, when I got a call from the city administrator, we had conversations with, Justin, then things start happening. So thank you very much. And facilities and public services. And it was amazing to see the faces of Manitou Springs Library branch staff. They were so happy to have their own space and have their kitchen. So again, thank you very much. That was amazing. And again, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish all of that without Michael Bretner's and Justin Goodwin's leadership and their teams. So thank you very much. Any questions?
I actually have a question. I'm sorry.
I just tag on really quick with your Manitou. I forgot to mention this earlier. So when I stopped by last week, I asked them how things were going. The response that I got was, it feels really good to have a home again. And I think that speaks a lot to kind of how the last few years,
Yes.
how unsettled they've been. And I think it also speaks to how much they appreciate the new space of that. So wanted to pass that along.
So the only question I have is about the Mac Center. Where are we with that? Because I know that sometime last year, we talked about our options with the Mac Center. Do we continue our relationship with them? Do we, what are we planning on doing? And I just, where are we with that?
I believe I did, again, it was maybe a year ago. So we did have conversations, and at this point, we came to mutual understanding that we will be partners, but we won't have any official agreement. So we did have those conversations with Natalie. We tried different options that would be beneficial for both organizations, and we decided that just, not continue our previous type of partnership. That's where we are there. But again, we're grateful to Natalie and her team for allowing us provide library services from their space for so long. But yes, we did have this back and forth and looking at different options, and then both parties decided that, maybe just we can revisit it in the future, but right now just continue how we are.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
My last thing is that not a lot of people, but I do get questions. What happens with data when we have data, right? We as librarians, we like data. So that's why we have this amazing department, strategy and innovation. And one of the accomplishments, actually, we already started seeing that. They took our mileage reports when it comes to security officers last year. They analyzed the data, and based on all of that what they provided to us, to administration, it was decided to purchase vehicles because it's actually going to save us a lot of money. So, and the plans we have with that all circulation, all other data that we collect, they will be analyzing and then providing to us. So I wanted to thank that department, and I wanted to thank Becker Cruz for leading that department so well. Thank you.
Any questions on that report? Okay. Consent items, minutes from January 15th meeting, and also the work session meeting as well.
I need to make a correction to the work session, minutes, and it was by mistake at the meeting, but on that, let's see, capital letter B and then little letter A, it's the mining museum, not the mining exchange. So, it's one of those things where I woke up in the middle of the night and said, I said that wrong. And so, yes,
Yeah,
lo
it
and
is.
behold, I really did. So, yeah, we just need to correct that.
Okay. And then I did see a spelling error on letter F, I think, as well. On library has a Q in it. Space.
Oh, yeah.
The editor and me needs to correct that.
I just have a couple of questions to ask if you don't mind. One of them about the mining
Exchange?
Yeah. Did they actually, because they provided a presentation like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's been,
Yeah.
it was right after I came on.
Yeah, is that the same proposal that they were looking at, or is it an amended proposal, or is it just they want to start the conversation again with us?
None of
None of
the
that?
above.
Okay.
So during the work session, I brought that up as an example.
Gotcha.
Of ways that we might be able to partner with other organizations or co-locate so that we could have more branch accessibility.
So we're talking about building sharing.
Right, right,
things,
which is what their
proposals, yeah.
proposal was
Right.
back then. Okay. I'm sorry. Aaron. First off, I apologize. I wasn't able to attend. Had some family issues. The looking at the possibility of using Callahan as the yeah, the high availability branch. Did we or do we have any contract or an agreement with Farmers State Bank for that specific location, or do we own everything?
We do own,
Okay.
we own it.
Just want to make sure, because
Yes.
I figured the answer was yes, but I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
we do own that.
The other question is, if we're looking at using this automated approach and trying to cut down on hours, do we want to, and I'm hoping the answer is going to be yes, ask the community for input on that and what their feelings are for having a branch that may not have librarians at certain time, but still have access to the materials and things like that.
I
So
mean,
I don't know if that's been done or not.
it has not been done. Of course, we will be more than happy to do that. The reality is that our hope is if we do that, actually the community, they will have access to library resources than they have now. And we will still have their staff. But I think, I believe I had this conversation with someone at Manitou Springs opening, that former employee, when PPLD purchased that building, I don't even remember when it was. Again, I was not in administration. We, as a public service directors, we were asked to look at our departments and find vacancies or staff that we could allocate. And I'm looking at Becca because she was in that meeting years ago. Allocate staff there. Because we did not have any staff, right? And we, as public service directors, we did our best. But what it meant that by giving positions from other departments, we had to reduce our services. So we were not able to give a lot of positions, but some. And that's how PPLD was able to open that location. And now that we own the building, but because we don't have enough staff, we cannot open that library all the hours we want. And I know that Gigi and Janina, they do their best when people call sick, then they find someone who lives close by there, because mileage is very expensive as well. So that's the hope, that they will have more access than they have now.
Which is
Yes.
what they wanted.
And so
Yes.
part of the conversation, just add a little color, is we're obligated to have staff there 20 hours a week. So we're not talking about cutting to like 3, 4, 5 hours. Like, it's still a significant number of hours that would be staffed with the librarian. And so it would just be some delta times is what we're looking at there. So it's not, just to reassure everybody, it's not like we're gutting hours, and it'll just be open for people, most of the time. We'll still have like 20 hours that we have to have staff there minimum. And so it's not just a little color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I was just gonna make a motion to approve the consent items as amended, since we amended the consent items.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, and then we will move to decision item 25-2-2. Computer use and internet safety policy update. Can I get a motion in a second before we begin discussion?
I'm gonna ask a question, but I don't know if I'm gonna ask or not. Should that actually be 25-2-1 since we removed?
Oh, yeah.
Resolution 25-2-1. Okay. I move that the Pikes Peak Library District Board of Trustees approve the computer use and internet safety policy update.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I do have a question on, Roman numeral 5. And I think I read this somewhere else. I forgot my computer at home with all this stuff on it. But on the, technology protection, isn't that already written somewhere in our, for parental use of the library and everything that we offer? Do we need to have this in here as well? And do we need to refer to the law?
Are you referring to, it's a computer policy, because when it comes to parental guidelines.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
It's a
that's
different, okay,
okay.
because we do have it for our online
Yes.
resources, if guardians or parents choose to use them. Those.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was on the wrong one.
Oh, okay.
But that, yeah, I'm fine with this. It was the other one. I still have the question.
Sorry, just, sorry.
Yeah, of course.
I do have one more question. I didn't see anything on here about, are we considering the printing of materials remotely and then coming to the library and picking them up part of this policy, or is that completely different?
It's completely different. Yeah.
Good. Good.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions or discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the motion as stated? Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Make a motion that the Pikes Peak Library and District Board of Trustees approve the PPLD rights and responsibility statement, which will replace the existing library bill of rights statement from the ALA.
And again, that number Roman numeral 5.
Yes.
Oh, we got to get a
Second.
second. I'll second it.
4 seconds.
Do we have to have that in there when we already have this other policy written?
I believe so, because we also have other resources in our libraries. It's not just computer or internet. So, and to make sure that as a library, you are referring to minors and guardians, right, Dora?
Yeah.
As a library, we're not we don't act in locus parentis, so we're not school districts, right? And then when parents come with their children or guardians, it's actually their responsibility, also how the Colorado law is written, to monitor their children. And that's was the idea. I mean, again, that was the idea, right? To have it there to make sure that we as librarians, we don't take responsibility, or we cannot take responsibility for minors, how they interact with our resources.
So this is how we talked about, I think, last year, we were talking about having kind of like an overarching policy that other policies kind of like trickle down from, or foundational policy, if you will. So, and then this was just to make sure as well that we had clear alignment with the First Amendment with Colorado library law. I did go through legal review as well.
So is this one then applicable to like Power Pass users and so that people understand that while we do what we can, their children?
Yes, you're
Okay.
right. That's the thing that we, yes. Thank you, Debbie. Yeah.
So should that be included somewhere in here to be clarified? Or how will parents know that this does include the Power Pass?
I was gonna say, this is kind of an overarching policy, and then the Power Pass and the other policies themselves would specify those other details. This is a little higher level.
Yeah, we already have those. Yes. Dora, if you go on our
Yeah, I've seen
website,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
it's already there.
Yeah,
We have that there about Power Pass, right? For
right.
instance, I have a story. My 14-year-old daughter realized, because I told her finally, that she can check out ebooks on her Kindle. And her reaction was, so you are telling me I'm going to have endless books supply all the time and I don't have to ask you to take me to the library? I'm like, yes. And she and I talked about that even with Libby. Okay, am I going to put those parental controls for her? What kind of books they can use, she can access or not? So it's already there. We already have it covered for parents when it comes to Power Pass.
Okay, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're covered.
Yes, we are.
I don't want for anyone to come and say, well, it's not written anywhere that we're taking care of our littles and they're getting into places that they shouldn't be.
And also that's why there is this Colorado library law as well. If we
Yeah,
read
that's-
that, it says there that that's not but it's not our responsibility.
And can I ask another question? Since these are all overarching, then if I was to go into this on the internet, on our website, and I went to one of the Roman numerals, and would it guide me to go see the actual policy that would fall under this?
I don't think the actual policies are all specifically tied to the particular Roman numerals. This is just an organizational format that I've seen before for these types of statements to help
Okay.
keep the points clear for people. But this would guide the other more specific policies.
So the way that I see it is that this being overarching informs how the other policies are crafted. And so this ends up creating like a one-to-many relationship. So we may have, Roman numeral 7 here for sort of the overarching, but it could be implemented in 4 or 5 different policies as the policy is actually created. And so there's not directly a one-to-one relationship between this document and then the policies that exist. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I understand. Okay, just curious.
Do we need to make a motion to amend this to not say draft, or can we just take draft off of it when we have the final copy?
Yeah,
Just
just take-
making sure,
Yeah.
just asking.
If you vote to approve, then it will be the final copy.
Any further questions or discussion? Now I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as presented. I signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And we'll move to decision 25-2-3. Get a motion in a second.
I move that the Pikes Peak Library District Board of Trustees authorize administration to open discussion with the owner of 685 North Murray Boulevard building regarding the possible purchase of the property through the fund.
I'll second. Any discussion? And I think also the CEO can give a little bit of background.
So as we discussed at the work session on this, I believe it was the 2nd of January when they reached out to us and expressed the desire to talk with us about possible purchasing of that building. They also mentioned that they have the brand new roof, that it has 20-year warranty, and I'm looking at Randy if I'm just like missing something. That's when it came to our attention, and then we discussed that during our work session. But as you know, we cannot ask for more questions or have any discussion with them without your authorization. So that's why we are bringing it to your attention. And also, I know that while we had the work session on the 12th, it was expressed there that everything, if such things come to us, to administration, that we should bring it to the board for a discussion and for giving the to authorize us to have further conversations with them.
Well, Angela's reading. No, you go for it.
Just to recap a little bit of the discussion from the work session for people that weren't there. As far as my memory goes, we were talking about, as people have commented, the recommendation in the facilities master plan was to possibly close and move that branch further east. But we also recognize that there are a lot of people who depend on that branch being in its location because of transportation issues and because of the demographics of the area. It provides computers for kids that don't have them at home. And a lot of feeling that that location, while not ideal in the size of the branch, was well suited for where it is. And so we talked a lot about that. We talked a lot about, was there a possibility in the future that if we needed to and had the resources to expand that branch, if we owned it, would that be possible in that location? And so we had a lot of questions along those lines. Did I miss anything?
And I just have a more of a probably a point of process. I absolutely agree that when these opportunities are presented, they should be discussed. I'm one who always likes options. And I can see the pros and cons on both. And I like to have everything laid out on the table. When we do something like this, because this is the one that was brought to you, do you have to come back to the board with just that information, or will this allow you to have a stronger purview of not only this exact possibility or opportunity, but does it give you as a under the roof Holly umbrella to look at the best aspects for all?
Thank you. I think this I think this should be a great opportunity. Also, if the trustees would like us to look at other possible locations in that area, that we can also explore that as well. So yes.
So we could do this one as is, would it allow that, or do we need to amend that?
I think there is a possibility maybe amend that, right?
Yes, say as it's written or as the motion was stated, this is specifically for the existing location. So if we were wanting to expand that, we would need to amend the motion.
And basically amend it to
Either include surrounding areas or.
surrounding areas, I think would be.
Yeah.
I guess my preference, if we're gonna have discussions with the owners, would be to limit it to this particular discussion. And it may be that you come back and present what they say and we go, oh, or whatever. And then because if we're gonna consider these things as they come up, they don't necessarily broaden, in my mind, into, well, where else
do we want to do that? I mean, we might want to have the discussion of whether or not we just keep renting there for a while we look for something else. I would rather have those discussions a piece at a time, personally.
You recall when you see the populated with Colin?
I believe that's their 2028, correct?
January 31st,
2020, yeah, I just remember 2028 because it's something important. My daughter is graduating there, Aaron, so I'm just preparing myself that year.
All good. I'm probably of the same opinion as Debbie that I would rather limit this specific resolution, this effort to see what this opportunity presents. I'm not opposed to looking other places, but I think for now, since this is the specific one, we're not looking to move that right this minute. We have time. So I'd say since this is the opportunity that's here, let's look at that opportunity. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, great. And we can then look at if there's a desire to pursue other surrounding areas.
I guess in just mine, we all make these decisions based sort of on our own personalities, and I am one that tends to go out larger and come in smaller as opposed to smaller. Sure. Because, and I think you're different. I think you like to take it one chunk at a time, and I like to take it all and then come back in. And I think that just for me to make decisions, I can't make a decision on a small chunk unless I know what is possibly out there. I do. I love my options. And that was what I was liking to say is it didn't mean we had to make a decision, but I just sort of didn't want to limit that every time she's got to wait a month because something else is out there, and just, maybe give her the capability of looking. That doesn't mean she necessarily has. She needs to look at this issue that's been brought forward, and she can't do that until we give her that permission. So absolutely, I always say I love my house and I don't think I would sell it, but if someone knocked on my door and said, I want to buy, I'm definitely inviting them in to hear what they have to say. Sure. And that's where I'm sort of looking at through here. But it would be very hard for me to go, yeah, that's great, because I don't know what great is at this point. And that was why I just wanted to have that capability. Instead of her having to wait a month, come back and go, okay, we get more of a complete package. Or she may come back and go, this is all we've looked at. But I just sort of didn't want to tie her hands so completely. And that's what I was.
Oh, and I agree with you about having options, and I would never want us to make a decision on purchasing or not purchasing without looking at what else was available. Yeah. One of the things that we talked about at the work session was that she should bring everything that she gets to us. Because people do come and say, well, what about this? What about this? And so we're not going to be able to do them all, and we're not going to want to do them all, but we do want to hear them all. And so I guess that's why I feel like, well, let's hear what they have to say, but the lease isn't up for 3 years, so there's no reason that we would have to do anything at this point unless we just thought it was a wonderful idea, and then we could look at other things before we made our decision if we wanted to do that.
So I also just want to state that this specific resolution is to enter into negotiations. Right. So we have an interest, or not negotiations, but get more information, actually dialogue with the property owner. I don't know that I feel comfortable saying, yeah, go get information on everything that's for sale kind of in that area. And so I think limiting it here because this is specific, it doesn't mean that there aren't other options that are out there. All we're talking about is actually engaging in a discussion about what it would look like to purchase that building. And I think for that reason, we really need to keep this scope narrowed down to this building.
I'd like to ask some of the other members.
I said this is for discussion, not negotiation.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. Yes. Ms. Gonzalez, do you have any?
No, I don't. I think it's a good idea that we start at least having some conversations. You can't hear me? You want me to use my outdoor voice? Anyway, I do believe that it'll be good for us to start into conversations. It doesn't mean that a decision is being made. It's just that we're getting into some conversations to see what's available there and what they have to offer. We do know that there are some reasons for that library to continue staying open. And there are other things that we would have to think about if we start widening our scope. And I'm not opposed to that, but at this point, I think we need to do a little chunk at a time until we can figure out what's going to happen. And we've got plenty of time to do some of this conversations, exploration, and see where we go from here.
Mr. Danny, do you have any questions?
I actually did. Yeah, I do. So we're looking at UPass and looking at numbers around 527,000, which includes 450 for the building, 70,000 for the automation or the making it accessible outside of the staffed hours, and then an additional 7,000 to redraw the property lines. And then, of course, the possibility of purchasing this building as well. My concern is that when we start looking at things like this, when we start looking at the other branches and we start looking at other buildings that we could potentially purchase, I just keep going back to the whole problem of, I thought we were having financial problems. We still don't even have a plan on, are we going to ask for a mill levy? Are we going to ask to be detabered? To me, those are our most important priorities. And even looking at something like this right now, that's fine, we could do that, but it could change in 6 months. It could change in a year. It could change again. Somebody, the owner could decide, I've changed my mind, I don't want to sell this, or I'm going to sell it to another person, another company that's going to be managing it. I don't know. I think that when we have these things brought to us, especially for something like this, where 2028 is when this is supposed to be up for rent renewal, I think we need to have some discussions about what we're wanting to do financially before we start looking at purchasing buildings. That's my opinion.
Yeah, we did cover some of that during the work session last week in terms of understanding the financial breakdown. So there was, as you know, leases come out of the operational budget, any sort of purchases or capital expenses to improve buildings do that. But I do want to actually give Erin Bentz a chance to talk a little louder. Sure. I do want to give Erin Bentz a chance really fast to add any comments. I know she's comments. Erin, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me, guys, bear with me, okay? As to the question of how to handle this actual piece completely, I do happen to agree with Erin that keeping the scope kind of tight, and I think Debbie spoke to this too, helps, in my opinion, kind of reel in what we know is going to be a sensitive discussion. It can be a touchy subject. We know that this has been brought up a couple of times. And I think if we just allow the team to give us just information about what is currently available or what is currently happening with just that location, it'll help us sort of get a grasp on what bigger conversations we need to have, as far as like what you're saying, Scott, as to what direction we're going in, how we might handle this, where the finances might come from, all those things. So I'd like to see just this piece be looked at on a kind of small scope. So we just have this piece to start with, and then we go from there. That's sort of where I'm at.
Excuse me. I can definitely understand wanting to start the small part. Again, it's a little bit backwards from what I do, but I'm totally on board with that to have that conversation. I don't know, this is a little bit off the discussion, but the person that came and spoke and said he had heard the facilities plan, I can't remember exactly how they called it, the unmanned.
Yeah, unstaffed,
Unstaffed.
that's what they, hybrid.
So in the facilities master plan, it talks about being an unstaffed model. That is not something that we can actually do in the state of Colorado because we have to have the 20-hour minimum.
Right.
So really what we're talking about is sort of this hybrid model where we have 20 staff hours there and then it's still access. And we've talked about a couple different models where it's, like a 6 a.m. to like 8 p.m. type of thing, or if it's 24/7 or what that looks like. We don't really know. That'd probably be something we could control with just the way that the access is given on the doors themselves. But what we're talking about is really a hybrid model and not an unstaffed.
And that's just what I wanted to bring up to the person that spoke about it. That was when we talk about that, that is what we were talking about. I don't know if he is even still here, but thank you. You described it much better than I could. Thank you.
All right, any more comments or questions specifically regarding this decision on discussion on this all? Okay, then I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The ayes carry. That concludes our decision items. Are there any additional comments before we finish? Without objection, meeting is adjourned at 6:50.